Hey, this is the guy with no name, but I still have a message. That's parks are zoos for trees. And on today's podcast, my guest is going to be Marie Raccioppi from apogeeart.com. I suggest you check it out, APOGEE art.com, and she's going to mention one of her other websites at the end of the program.
Yeah, so basically we were talking about this. The secret is that there is no secret.
In addition to that, all is revelation.
What do you mean by that? What is the secret? What is it that everyone's after, and what is revelation?
Well, as I looked over the years at the things that were presented to people to enhance their ability, to assure their success as an entrepreneur, and it's true that we want to feel as if we complete a certain number of steps, or if we adhere to a certain number of directives, we have all the answers. Everything's in place. So you have, the 7-step program, the 3-step program, the 5-step program, and the 12-step program. And depending upon how people integrate it into every other aspect that is revealed in their life when they're in the process, they will shortchange themselves. So everything is revelation. A resistance to a program is revelation. A success within one step of the program is revelation. And what I mean by revelation is the feedback that it gives to the body, to the mind, or the spirit. Everything is vibration, sound, and cell signaling. So whether we wake up in the morning with a headache, with a sense of energy in which we feel we're going to skip through the day, no matter what our challenge, it is what we have brought to our consciousness. It's what our consciousness has brought to our body. So when I say there's no secret, meaning that within ourselves is all revelation. It's like looking at a page of print. If we don't understand the meaning of each letter, and we don't understand the relationship of the letter to create a word, we look at the page, but nothing is signaled because we don't have a reference point for what that code means and how we are to get something from that code. Well, it's the same thing with ourselves. Indigestion is a cell signaling. High energy is a cell signaling. A feeling of inspiration is a cell signaling. When I say cell signaling, a cell is a part of an organ is part of the system, and the system is part of the whole. The parts operate in response to the whole, and the whole operates in response to the parts.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because when you say cell signaling, most people don't know what you mean. I want to continue with this. I want to be really specific about what cell signaling means. If there's anything else you want to say about it, that so that your average person knows exactly what you're talking about.
The average person experiences it, but may not. It's like looking at a page of print. You could experience it, but you may not be able to decode it. It may not be in a language that you're familiar with. I know that even, there was a learning curve when computers first came, and they had their own language. And the language would spark or signal confusion because there wasn't an understanding of the new word within the new context of a computer, or how to run a computer, or how to understand how a computer runs. So we may not hear the term cell signaling, but we live it every breathing moment of our existence. At the moment we were born, most of us are slapped on the bottom. And what did we do? We cried. And what did that do? Fill up the lungs with breath. And then we knew that there was a life that was strong enough to be able to maintain itself without emergency life support care to a newborn. So cell signaling is just what life is. Whether we are familiar with the term or not, doesn't take away from the fact that we have lived this all the time. And we live it every moment of our breathing life.
You gave, amongst the other two examples before, I think you gave, you said inspiration. Could you just give like 5 examples real quick that your average person might experience throughout the week that you're referring to as cell signaling?
Sure. You watch a sunset, and all of a sudden you find that your breath is deeper. The beauty of the sunset is perceived by the person, and then the person responds with a signaling to its body. So it's watching a sunset, so it doesn't feel any anxiety. So the signaling is, okay, you could chill out, relax for this moment. Take, hold on and feel the difference in that moment, than rushing for a bus that you need to make in order to arrive at your destination in time, and you're running to the bus because it's leaving the bus stop, and you're signaling it. So if the driver sees you signaling, it will stop. And if the driver stops, then your stress most likely will be reduced, because now you're on the bus ready for your destination. You may find yourself breathing deeply, and then eventually, as your trip begins to unfold and you're assured that you're going to arrive in time. So all of those everyday encounters are signaling a set of responses. Now, in my work with understanding words and how they trigger off different neurological responses that were actually measured by biofeedback, it's interesting because there is a word that we use most of the time when we are going into a new venture, we're not quite confident, and we say, I will try that. Well, just the word try, if one were to be wired neurologically, would show that it actually brings about stress indicators, because try is on the spectrum of doubt, and doubt is on the spectrum of fear. And as soon as we're on the spectrum of fear, there is a stress response. So in my work, simply moving from the word try to the like, I'll try to do that. Move that to, I will work on that. In fact, if you hear it and you say, I will try to do that, and feel the energy and your breath pattern, become aware, like decode what your body is experiencing to yourself. Decode meaning pay attention to what it is that is being triggered. And then you say the same thing, I'll work on that, and feel the difference. This is what I mean by learning to decode our experience.
Okay.
And the reason for that is so we could be in command, that we could be at cause, not at effect.
I love the term cell signaling.
Yes, and the thing is, why I have created that particular title is because that title, in terms of revelation, is the whole aspect of what is revealed to ourselves if we understand the code. So revelation, we look at a page of print, as I referred to earlier. The only way the content could be revealed to us is if we understand the code. We understand the letters and the relationship to each other for words, and the words in relationship to the sentences, and the sentences in relationship to the message.
Okay, I have a question, and this has to do with how this would relate to people in real life, because we were talking about this off the air, about how your cells could send you a signal, and then you may take medicine to suppress that signal and not really respect the signal that your body is trying to send you. And my question is, let's say somebody says, I'm going to try and do something new. And by saying the word try, that's on the spectrum of doubt, and that's on the spectrum of fear. If they say, I'm going to try something new, and 10 minutes later, they get a headache, but they just think, oh, I got a headache, I'm going to take this pill to get rid of my headache. How could your average person be cognizant of the possibility that the word try could have led to a headache 10 minutes later? And that's just an example. You know, I would like you to answer that and then give other examples, because I want people to really understand how this could play out in real life.
There are two ways in bringing this to an experiential reality for the person. One, which I have gone through and explored and amplified and integrated, is the application of formal biofeedback. So you say one word, and that word will create particular responses on the part of your body. And that reflects, obviously, possibly your state of consciousness. The other, if and when used in its purity, not in its misapplication, but its intended application, and I'm emphasizing that quite strongly because of the misuse of it, and that is using kinesiology. Kinesiology, kinetic means motion and movement, and that is the motion and movement of energy through the body that indicates that there is a flow or an indication that there is some kind of obstruction. Think of obstruction as pain, confusion, stress, anything that doesn't allow the totality of cell signaling to be in harmony, to be in resonance. And what I mean by harmony and resonance, meaning what the liver needs is being delivered, what the heart needs is being delivered without any compromise. You know, if we breathing foul air, the heart and lungs are going to respond. If we're eating foods that are contaminated, the liver and the digestive organs are going to respond.
Yeah, but hold on.
Everything is response.
Okay, so let's just say somebody gets an upset stomach. Everyone that I know, except maybe a couple people, almost everyone that I know, if they get an upset stomach, they take some over-the-counter medicine for that. Or, I'm just wondering, how do we get people? I mean, me myself, like if I have an upset stomach, I may take some, a certain type of tea or something like that, and someone could argue, well, you're not using over-the-counter stuff, but you're still trying to, counter what your body's trying to tell you. So I don't think I'm being a hypocrite here. I mean, my question.
No, the thing is that if your finger gets caught in the door, it's not noble for you to keep it there. You need to remove it so that the pain doesn't continue and the damage doesn't escalate. So if someone has an upset stomach and they understand that it's upset and they take a mint or some kind of herbal tea and they're in the consciousness of there is something, this is neutralizing. If there is something that literally, in terms of the metaphor of stomach and digestion, is what is it that was difficult for me to take in? What is it that I really didn't want to digest? It doesn't have to be food. It could be that you were eating and someone was discussing something with you, and what they were discussing with you, was unpleasant. And therefore, the body's reaction was not to digest it. And since you ate food, the food is sitting there not getting digested. And therefore, there's upset. So
Okay.
like an antacid, what does that do? The thing is that it reduces the acid so that one doesn't have a sense of burning in the stomach. Acid, anything that we do on a conscious level, or using, teas or things that nature provides that are not pharmaceuticals, all those things are there to recreate the balance. Everything is inhalation and exhalation. We cannot get away with it. Everything is bringing in and letting go. So if we bring in something that sort of stops us in our tracks and we don't know what to do with it, we could get an upset stomach because we can't digest it. We can't assimilate it.
Okay, wait.
What is indigestion? It means I cannot take it in. I cannot assimilate it. I have no power over it.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question, only because, believe it or not, we're at the 16-minute mark.
Okay.
And I don't want this to go more than 20 minutes, and I do have one more question for you.
Julie, I'll respond.
This is the deepest question I could think of. I think this really gets to the crux of what I'm trying to find out. When a lot of people, it's interesting that a cell response could be something positive or negative, what we perceive as positive or negative. It could be inspiration or it could be knee pain. My question for you is, when it is something like knee pain or some sort of a pain, how would the average, what's the mechanism for the average person to get past the cultural response, which is, my knee hurts, this sucks, to look at it in a fresh way?
Well, if they appreciate that they are intelligent beings, that inherent in their system is a coding and a messaging, and willing to respect the intelligence and the knowing and the potential for knowing within their own system, and not delegate that knowing power to pharmaceutical prescriptions. And I'm not taking the position that medications, when necessary in an emergency situation, but my experience is that the more we understand this, the more we avoid the, quote, emergency situation. If while we're eating, someone begins to talk about something that's distressing, and we become aware of it, there are things that we learn that will allow us to be masterful and then be able to get past that particular trigger that is saying, you know what, I feel like throwing up. And then we begin to appreciate, the appropriateness of certain things in certain situations. Maybe one is not to talk about horrific things when getting together for a dinner. Mm-hmm. I know in my training at the Himalayan Institute of Yoga Science, when we were in the module to really understand food and digestion, we gathered, at the dining room tables, but for that particular module, we were to eat together in silence, just to be aware of the motion and movement of other people. What bugged us? Did we become annoyed, because someone used a fork one way or another? Just as literally as feedback on a more subtle level. But it was more than just observing and judging others. It was is understanding ourselves in relationship to a situation. Whether that situation being eating at a yoga center in silence or eating at a counter in the subway.
All right, we are at the 19-minute and 30-second mark. Do you want to name some of your websites?
Sure. I would encourage everyone, if they want to understand more of this, to go to one website in particular at this time, and it's www.apogee, APOGEE, one word, Accutone, ACUTONE, .blogspot, BLOGSPOT.com. That's Apogee, Accutone, .blogspot.com. You are invited to certainly become a follower if you choose, and you're invited to comment And know that any question you have on any of the postings, any question you have in regard to what I presented in this podcast, I would be more than pleased to respond to.
Yeah, so we'll do more podcasts in the future. I want to focus next time on vibration and sound, and also how an organ is part of a system and a system is part of a whole. I want to get to all of that. But
yeah, I look forward to our next podcast, and look forward to any of the listeners availing themselves of the Apogee Acutone blogspot. I look forward to creating a dialogue with whomever chooses to explore this further.
Thank you for listening. That was Marie Raccioppi from apogeeacutone.blogspot.com. My name is parksourzoosfortrees.com. And consider subscribing to my podcast, because seriously, where are you going to hear discussions like this anywhere else? What are you going to do? You're going to subscribe to a sports podcast or something like that, and you're not going to subscribe to this? Give me a break. Anyway, I like you guys no matter what. Thank you for listening, and I will see you later. Farewell.